everybody, I'm Joey Paul and I'm an indie author and welcome back to my channel. I write young adult books in a variety of genres, and if that kind of stuff interests you, think about subscribing below. So today we're going to be talking about disabled characters. I've talked about disabled characters, writing them and the tropes I hate, but I thought that since my channel has grown, since I last did one of these, I would talk especially about things you should avoid when writing disabled characters. So let's jump right to it. Number 1, tropes to avoid. You've heard me rant about tropes I hate, which I will link up in the cards, but I'm going to break down a bunch of them for you here that you should avoid if at all possible. Better off dead. When the disabled character decides they're better off not being alive because they're disabled. Evil villain. We're tired of always being the villain and the backstory is usually the same, bitter and twisted, and because disabled, then ergo must be a bad person. Inspiration porn. This is when the disabled character is highlighted as being so inspiring because they exist while disabled. I get it from time to time being a writer and an author, and yet it's not the books that inspire them, it's the fact that I'm disabled and not curled up in a ball crying my eyes out. Magically cured. I don't need to explain this. We all know books that have done it, but you don't want to be implying that the only way for a happy ever after is to cure all the disabilities. Some people don't want to be disabled, and that's okay. Others are proud of their identity and don't want to be cured, and that's also okay. And loveless disabled. Everyone gets a love interest except the disabled character, because who would want to date them? I could go on, but I think you're getting the point. You need to avoid the tropes that negate the disability or paint the disabled person as bitter and angry and unlovable. I don't mean every character should be in love and a wheeling positive thinking rainbow. We all have flaws, but maybe don't make the flaw the fact that they're disabled. Number 2, stereotypes aren't good. I've covered this a little just now, but I thought I would go into more detail since I feel like even when people talk about some of the tropes, they do still fall into the stereotype trap. I've talked before how for a long time I saw myself as not disabled enough because I wasn't in a wheelchair. And then when I needed a wheelchair, it was like suddenly I had entered a door that said, "You are disabled, join us." And this is basically my way of saying that you don't have to go with stereotypes or someone in a wheelchair. You can have other disabilities that present in different ways. The disabled community is the biggest minority, and too much of the time we're only seeing rep with characters who are both in a wheelchair and paralysed. And this leads to the idea that because some wheelchair users are ambulatory from time to time, they're just faking. So when I say avoid stereotypes, it goes hand in hand with the tropes. Present characters who subvert tropes or who aren't a wheeling stereotype. Number 3, research is key. So I know what you're thinking, this is a whole lot of work and I'm dumping it in your lap. Yeah, it is. It's also a lot of work to research many other things that come with writing. No one can force you to write something you don't want to, and that's completely okay. But if you are writing disabled characters, you need to do some research, especially if there's someone with a lesser known condition or something you don't personally have experience with. Like for me, right now I'm working on books with characters with disabilities other than my own. I had to do a ton of research, and while I'm lucky enough to have inside sources at the hospital because of my own conditions, I still needed to do a lot of work to get those characters and their disabilities right. If you're not disabled and are writing disabled characters, and this applies to you as well, even if they're not the main characters, even if they're a side character, you still need to do some research. How much depends on what you're writing, and that's completely up to you, but be prepared to do what you need to and devote some time to it. Don't just stick to one source. We are not a monolith. Number 4, sensitivity readers are a must. Going off that last point, when you finish writing, you need to employ sensitivity readers. Depending on what path you choose, depends on when you need to do this. I know Lizelle Sambury did a video on sensitivity readers, which I will link up in the cards and down below, but for her it was after the developmental edit. For me, as an indie author, I do it before the developmental edit. That way I can make changes and revise as needed with my sensitivity readers until they're happy with it, and then it goes off to my editor. I was sure that I didn't just have one, but at the same time, you will be paying these readers, and while that may be an idea to skip this step, it really is important that you don't. For some books, I've only needed certain chapters, others it's been the whole book, and while yes, it's something I've researched Research won't do everything. So if nothing else, try and hit one sensitivity reader to go over your work who, and I can't stress this enough, shares that disability. Sending me a manuscript about a blind person isn't going to help because I'm not blind. So make sure you send it to people who share that disability, and if possible, ethnic background as well, as that will play a part. Number 5. Variety is the spice of life. What you have to remember is a lot of people attract and are friends with others like them. So like LGBTQ people will usually hang out with other LGBTQ people. The same goes for disabled people. And to add some realism to your work, try not to have the one disabled person in the whole group. It's okay if the disabilities aren't all visible, and it's okay if it's something where the person got sick later in life or had an accident and the like, or even if those disabled friends are more online than offline. Add some variety in there. I know people with my conditions, sure, but I also know people who share none of mine, and it's great to have that difference and see other people's takes on certain things. You don't have to write a whole cast of disabled characters, but maybe avoid just having the one on their own and only mentioned here and there. So there we go, those are my 5 topics and all my tips about what to avoid when writing disabled characters. I will just make it very, very clear that that is only like the tip of the iceberg. There are so many things I haven't mentioned, there are so many more things to think about, but I just wanted to do a quick video really to give you an idea of the level of research and information you need to find to properly write disabled characters. So have you ever written a disabled character? How did it go for you? Let me know in the comments down below. So that's all I've got time for today. If you want to support my channel, you can comment, like or subscribe. I post new videos on Thursdays. You can find me all over social media and my books are available everywhere. And don't forget to enter the Page Turner Awards, for which I will be a judge for the Young Writer Award. You can get £10 off at the link below until February 28th. And also don't forget to pick up Cramping Chronicles The First Twinge, all the links for which are listed below. Thanks for watching, and remember to keep writing. Bye!